Welcome back, everyone. Now, time for public comments. I will start with some emailed comments. First one is from Jeff Larry. Hello, please allow this email to serve as a public comment for the next scheduled Millburn School District 24 Board of Education meeting, and as a call for an emergency special meeting for the Millburn 24 School Board to call for immediate resignation of Peter Pederini. It has come to light that a criminal investigation is being conducted by police into potential misconduct involving Peter Pederini. The nature of this investigation is not yet known. However, due to the circumstances involving Mr. Pederini, the Round Lake Superintendent immediately placed him on leave from his position as a teacher at the Round Lake High School, calling into question his character and ability to serve in the best interest of the students and schools. Not only is there a risk not knowing what the investigation is about, specifically, it is involved a student who will also serve as a distraction for him and the board to perform the duties required while holding office as a school board member. It is of the utmost importance that we keep the safety and integrity of our students and school district intact and ask for his immediate resignation. The second email from Stephen Gray. Hello, please allow this email to serve as a public comment to the next scheduled Millburn 24 board meeting and as a call for an emergency special meeting for the Millburn School Board to call for the immediate resignation of Peter Pederini. While the nature of this investigation has not been released yet, we all know that the Round Lake High School District will only place a teacher on administrative leave pending a police investigation if the nature of the crime is both serious and likely involving the student. This type of individual has no business in or around a school district, and it would behoove the current board and administration to separate immediately and not wait until the investigation concludes. Please know that this email will not be my only effort in pushing for this outcome that is inevitable anyway. Do not shy away from taking the action that you know is necessary and right. And this one is from Ann Schneider. My name is Ann Schneider. I live in Millburn School District 24. I've raised 4 kids that attended Millburn schools. My oldest began kindergarten in 2000, and my youngest graduated in 2021. I've had a positive experience being a Millburn parent for over 20 years and am grateful for the foundation Millburn helped provide my children. I watched a video of the Board of Education meeting that took place on January 23rd, 2023, and was so disappointed. It was apparent that at least a few of the board members are not actually supportive of transgendered students. As I watched one member express frustration with the concept and another indicating that he'd be jumping on the tables if he still had a school-aged child in the school system, and then suggesting that everything he had known on the subject ended with his freshman year of science class. Well, it was embarrassing for the community. Learning is continuous. Whatever biology class you took years ago hasn't given you everything you need to know about transgendered people. That is the beautiful thing about science. It aims to build knowledge and is open to new information and revision. Never stop learning. I hope that the Board of Education, like teachers and administrators, can lead by example. If roughly half the population can menstruate, the other half can acknowledge it, accept it, and learn to make it a non-issue. The average age of menarche, I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong, has been decreasing over the last century. If classrooms can have tissue boxes and bathrooms can have toilet paper, so too can bathrooms have hygiene products. That all students can learn to leave alone lest they be needed. Let's teach our kids by example. Any claims that you make expressing your desire to make all students feel welcome fall short if you publicly deny the existence of transgendered people, do not wish to learn more, and or even jokingly suggest that students not get in trouble for vandalizing very particular school property. I appreciate your concern to lend your time to the school, but I hope you can reflect and appreciate how damaging the January Board of Education meeting was. Do we have any other public comments?
So, Jean Berger. And I'm going to.
Whichever you feel most comfortable.
My name is Jean Vargas, and I had two children from Millburn. One is now junior of Iowa, one is now junior of Warren. And we're always thrilled to be here at Millburn and to have Millburn education. I was quite disappointed to learn about these coordinators. I am a licensed social worker. I have worked with children, teenagers, adolescents, families, transgenders, young youth, LGBTQ youth, and adults. This isn't how you treat somebody. What I saw, I really felt was a systemic issue. The systemic issue on Millburn is looking at how the board is looking at and treating the transgender children that are coming through or Millburn. It's not good for them. They're looking at them and letting them know they're being excluded. They don't want it. That's the message they're giving. They're giving, or the board is giving that message to the teachers. The teachers then have to, sometimes against their will, turn around and give that message to the children. Children then feel excluded. They feel excluded from their peers, excluded from adults in their lives, here when they're here at school, become depressed, become anxious. Unfortunately, they have to end up coming to me. I don't necessarily want that in their lives. They should be wanted, they should be loved, they should be cared for. But that's not the message they give. So that's my concern why I'm here tonight. And I'm hoping Millburn is going to push forward, do the right thing, care for the kids, and also follow the law. So,
Thank you. And as a reminder, we have a 3-minute time limit and board generally does not respond directly to comments. So just to let you know. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sophia Vernon. My name is Sophia Vernon. I'm 18 years old. I'm a senior at Forest High School and I graduated from Millburn in 2019. I was here about a month ago to protest the board's recent discussion of trans people and trans students in Millburn School District. I decided to wait for the board to have a chance to discuss what they thought would be the best course forward, given the overwhelming support and public comment during the February 13th meeting. Sorry, do you have a thought you want to share? Okay. I'm
I'm
disappointed.
conducting board business.
So you're having a sidebar, having a public comment, in respect to anything.
You, I'm not dealing with tonight. I can do two things at one time. I can listen to you and do other things. I have business to take care of. I am done with my business. You may continue.
Wow.
Yeah, be respectful.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen and ladies, please. I understand your feelings, but please go on, Sophia.
I'm sorry?
No, please don't.
You better not be giving me the finger, buddy.
What are you talking about?
Jim?
She can remove the public comment generally, huh?
I am disappointed by this board's response and hurt by their callous disregard for the safety of some of Millburn's most vulnerable students. I am now here to supervise you, the Board of Education, and I will be here as much as I need to for as long as I need to. You need to be held accountable for what you are proposing, and I'm doing that now. Today you are discussing the banning of books in Millburn's libraries and classrooms. Last year, there was a similar challenge at Community High School District number 117, where many of your homes there were a paper about that challenge. It was 9 pages, and I am happy to provide printed copies of it to anyone interested. In this paper, I outlined the issues with dictating and ideology. In addition, I am requesting a complete list of book titles that the district intends to review and potentially ban. That type of information should be made available to everyone who lives in Millburn School District. I'm guessing that everyone here would agree that a book such as 50 Shades of Grey shouldn't be provided to kindergarten. But I don't think anyone should pretend that keeping children from reading highly inappropriate and violent erotica is the board's real goal here. Last time I was here, the board members addressed the crowd at the end of the meeting. Jim Kuzia and Peter Federoni Both offered to meet any of us in person only to discuss these issues. I refused, in part because I did not and still do not feel safe with these men, especially given the fact that Mr. Pederoni is currently under criminal investigation and on leave from his position at Groundlake High School. The public has the right to know the specifics of this investigation. This investigation of Mr. Pederoni is especially ironic given the fact that the board seems to believe that the greatest threat to Millburn's children is trans people and the depiction of how to come forward about sexual abuse of literature. We don't even know what Mr. Pederoni is being investigated for, but given the allegations are severe enough to place him on immediate leave at Groundlake, I believe the disclosure of that information is mandatory for our safety. Here are my requests: a full and comprehensive list of titles being challenged, the pertinent details regarding Mr. Pederoni's investigation, including the crimes he's being investigated for, a formal public apology from the Millburn Board of Education for everything that they, as a body, have put their peer students and their families through in the last 2 months. You have blood on your hands. You do. By helping to create a culture of intolerance for people who are different from you. Last night, a very prominent trans woman named Eden died by suicide after she was coerced into returning to her family by bounty hunters, who then forcibly transitioned her and drove her to believe that she had no option left. This keeps happening. It isn't a coincidence that I have read the names of Veronica Eden in Saudi Arabia, Haley Lovelight, MJ Jackson, Destiny Howard, Diamond Jackson McDonald, Daniel Ashton, and so many more. There's a reason why Denise Banks, a trans woman from Chicago, was murdered in January. It isn't because people spontaneously choose violence. It's because of people like you who normalize the ostracization of those who aren't like you. You don't even want to make a small effort to try to understand. There are more of us than there are of them, and our numbers will only grow. And leave you with this: you are not safe just because you side with them this time. They do not care about you. They just want to appear that they do, until you are no longer politically advantageous. And then they're coming for you next. Thank you.
For the lawyer, Mr. President. I would like a copy of that 9-page document.
You have one right here.
Thank you. And the request for the books and the materials that's going to be gathered probably as part of a FOIA. I would like to see that also. Thank you.
It's pronounced Petorini.
I apologize.
Thank you.
My name is Emily Runyon. Both my kids, one who we just met, graduated from Millburn School. And I definitely, I know many people here that we've always been proud of Millburn schools and what they stand for, but are now highly disappointed in what the board is showing us as the new idea, the new directions they want the school to take. So I will begin now. You may know someone too. 74% of Americans do. Her name is Crystal. For me, she's my oldest friend. I think of her as my sister. Now she has a title beyond friend, mother, sister, or wife. She is a domestic violence and rape survivor. She kept silent. Those speakers almost cost her life. She woke up one morning to duct tape covering her mouth and nose, and couldn't smell anyone. She's 4'11". He is 6'5", but somehow she managed to fight them off. She asked him to move out, separate for a while. After coming over to visit their kids and tucking them into bed, he raped her multiple times. She prayed that he wouldn't kill her. Hours later, when he left, she broke her silence. She was no longer going to keep his secret. She was arrested that night and later sentenced to 10 years in prison for forcible rape. Silence hides violence. Crystal was an adult when she was sexually assaulted, but I was not. I was a teenager when my stepfather sexually abused me. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18. So in a classroom here at Millburn, that's about 3 students. It's 3 students in each classroom. Silence hides violence. Sexual abuse has a huge stigma. And the only way to remove that stigma is to talk about it. So when a board member brought up concerns about a title book fighting words and whether it's appropriate to have available outside of the proposed sexual abuse awareness curriculum that parents could opt out of, their child out of, anyone must not stay silent. It may make you feel uncomfortable and squirm in your seat, but you must talk about it. If we go back to our statistics, that about 3 students in each of Millburn's classrooms will be sexually abused by the time they are 18. That means there are many students who are currently being sexually abused. We need to be speaking about them and to them. Would a parent who is sexually abusing their child do what they could do to protect themselves from criminal prosecution? Yes. Would they want that child to be empowered to speak up? No. That would put the abuser at risk. Would they want their child to have the tools necessary to speak out? No. That would put the abuser at risk. An abusive parent would take the opportunity to opt out if any and all curriculum that can empower their child. Just think if you were a teacher or another mandated reporter, and you had concerns about a student being possibly sexually abused, but not enough information that you want to take the risk of falsely accusing somebody. What if a book like Fighting Words opened a dialogue with that student? It gave that student the tools to speak out and stand up for themselves. What if it protected a child from abuse or even prevented the abuse from happening in the first place? We as parents, teachers, and educators want to arm our kids with the right tools to go out into this world, all the while trying to protect them from harm. We teach them that bullying is not okay. If you see something, say something. You have the right to say no. We teach them about all kinds of difficult subject matter and things we would rather just forget. Millburn has middle school curriculum about the Holocaust and World War II. Several past model books have been on these subjects alone. What will be next? Will the Millburn School Board be questioning if these books should be made available outside of that curriculum? It's important to teach our children about difficult subject matter. The only way to prevent it from happening again is to speak out about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rayanne Collins, and I no longer have children in this district, but I do have 3 sons that went through Millburn from early childhood through 8th grade, and I am also a substitute in District 24. I want to touch on a few things that were mentioned at the last meeting. It really bothered me. The documented fact that a member of this school board is advocating for the voucher system that would take away funding from our public school and encourage parents to take their students out of this district, I find not only appalling, but I find it a conflict of interest. The voucher system undermines our strong public education, and good luck getting taxpayers in this area to vote for a referendum ever again. People can choose to homeschool or put their kids in private school anytime, and that's a great option for some, but when you serve on this public school board, and you represent our amazing school, and you are advocating against it and its students, I have a big problem with that. District 24 is not an impoverished, at-risk community with crumbling schools. Millburn has the best reputation, and we will never get the voucher system, no matter how many transgender, gender fluid, or non-binary students attend the school. I am not speaking out against private schools. I am speaking out against public school board members who are turning their backs on this school. I am here and I am outraged because you are willfully negligent in your ability to make unbiased decisions in regards to the safeguards of all students. This voucher system would cause irreparable financial hardship and tarnish the reputation of the school. Vouchers will not get rid of trans kids. They will not get rid of tampons in bathrooms. If you intend to push forward with the voucher system, knowing that it will have a negative impact on the school, I would kindly ask that you submit your resignation and step down from this board. Another thing that was brought up at the meeting was the comment that was made that students should not be punished and their parents should not be held financially accountable for vandalism of tampon machines, because boys will be boys, and boys of a certain age can't be held responsible when they are faced with temptation. These reasons are a weak attempt to explain and condone aggressive and disruptive behaviors of a small number of students. There's a small number of students exhibit. It is an easy excuse to avoid the issue. As especially when it serves your agenda to allow the negative behavior to continue. What kind of message does this send our students? What kind of message does this send our community? As a mom of 3 boys, please do not assume that all boys are incapable of respectful behavior and following rules. Again, we are talking about a very small number of unruly students. Vandalism is a crime, and looking the other way, you are again demonstrating willful negligence, and that is unacceptable. I want to remind you of another temptation that made the headlines a few years ago. There was a TikTok challenge. You can look it up. You can Google it. It was called Devious Licks. And it encouraged students to steal, remove items from bathrooms, and vandalize bathrooms. It was quite a trend. And I can remember getting a letter from Millburn saying that any students who are participating in this trend will be met with swift consequences and their behavior will not be tolerated. How is that different? I don't understand, except the damaging of tampons and machines and their content only serves your agenda to marginalize and erase trans kids. And because you think tampons in boys' bathrooms are stupid, and your response to vandalism of this attractive nuisance is have at it, boys, we got you. That is the message you are sending. And if you think that we need special rules to allow vandalism of public school property just because boys will be boys, again, I would ask you to step down. Because we deserve better. We deserve a board that takes as much pride in our school and respects all of our students.
Point of order, Mr. President. I would certainly like to discuss the voucher situation. And at some point, at your convenience, and some people don't feel safe for some reason, but certainly where, where you would be most comfortable. And the voucher system is not the way that you portray it. It works well in 20 states in some way, shape, or form. And the parents that may wish to have their students. Fine, if we can discuss it at some point.
That's great. And over this next school, we will never get it. It's
right.
not going to happen.
Thank you.
Never
So
say
we
that.
have our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Alicia Key. I'm community member, parent, as of last year, parents, and I work in the district. Let's say a few things, but Rand pretty much covered it all, but I think it bears repeating a lot of it. I would like to say a couple of positive things from the last meeting. I was very happy to hear Dr. Wynn's explanation about the property tax grant relief. So I'll be happy to see the effects of that in a couple of years. I also like the idea of trying to reach out to community members who have students at Millburn, because I think people need to know what's going on here. But I do have a lot of concerns, especially based off the last meeting. I'm concerned about how tonight's conversation about library books is going to be handled. I'm concerned about the upcoming parent university sessions. If we're going to have somebody with knowledge of the new sex ed standards there to answer questions. Because if we don't, I think that has the potential to be misunderstood and cause even more tension within the district. I'm concerned about the voucher idea, especially since it seems to be worded in a personal agenda. But with the few minutes I have, I wanted to address that Mr. Guziak's proposal regarding the student discipline policy, specifically as it relates to the menstrual product dispensers in the bathroom. And she kind of covered it. If, you know, he conducted a student caught defacing or destroying the machine or clogging the plumbing with the contents of the machine, they should not be held responsible. And the phrase attractive nuisance was mentioned. My understanding is that's used to protect children from dangerous conditions that confront them, not for a purposeful destructive act. He stated we're dealing with boys of a certain age and things are just going to happen, and you can't be tempting kids and then disciplining. So hearing those words, I'm confident that many on the board realize, as many of us in the community realize, this is not only an irresponsible message to send to students, it's dangerous. The goals and objectives of the discipline policy are to provide ensure the safety and dignity of the students and the staff, and keep the school property secure,
and to address the causes of a student's misbehavior, and to teach a students positive behavioral skills to become independent, self-disciplined citizens in the school community and society. So what kind of message are we sending to our kids to say that some temptations are just so strong that even when you know you shouldn't give in to them, you just might get away with it? So Millburn students have a lot of temptations at school. There's temptations in the science lab, the gym, the cafeteria, the art room, the band room. Our students know not to mess with school property. If we make an exception for this one item, we might as well be making it a call to action. We're encouraging and we're giving them permission to have boundaries for other temptations. I don't think this is a message the board wants to send. I think we should focus on teachable moments, accountability, kindness, inclusion, and that there are consequences for your action.
Hi, everyone. As many of you know, I was privileged to serve on this board for 5.5 years. During that time, we had the great fortune to build on the foundation of excellence set by previous boards. As a result, we became a board almost exclusively focused on big picture, mission, vision, and goals discussions, which is where a board of education belongs. After all, we do not have the training, knowledge, or experience our district staff possesses. In the past 3 months, this board has been mired in granular operational issues justified by tenuous ties to board policy, which are actually staff issues. Every minute the board spends on staff issues is a minute not spent on the board's big picture oversight responsibilities. While every board member struggles to understand the line between board work and staff work, it's murky sometimes. This board has gone far over the line in recent months and seemed to have mostly abandoned its big picture oversight role. To illustrate this point, I went back and looked at the topics we discussed during this time of year when I was on the board. In 2019, we discussed the audit, fee structures, twice reviewed district goals, received curriculum presentations from staff, discussed board finance policy, class size, and staffing requests for the next school year, among other critical board level topics. Our board created a board agenda calendar based on a template from the IASB to help our board and future boards stay on track and in our lane. Since January, this board has spent the majority of its public meeting minutes discussing operational issues representative of particular board members' personal beefs, including a genuinely offensive chat session concerning their own opinions about transgender students and openly directing the superintendent to defy state and federal law. Now the board seems to believe it has more training and expertise than the staff to decide what books should be in the library and how to discipline students. While decisions made by the board will inevitably somewhat reflect the point of view of individual board members, the board should not guide the district mainly on their personal opinions or those of a fringe minority. Decisions and discussions should be evidence-based and made based on facts, data, staff recommendations, law, and full community feedback, with the education and well-being of every child in the district foremost in mind. Until now, in my experience, liberal or conservative, nearly every board member and certainly every board has embraced this children-first philosophy, which has historically resulted in positive outcomes and evidence-based decision-making. It's a shame to see this Board of Education devolve into an operations-obsessed mess. You are abusing the public's meeting time. Please understand that people are listening to you. They are worried that this lost board will not lead this district to a continuation of the educational excellence for which Millburn is known. You are degrading staff morale. You have subjected our district to ridicule. And if you, as a board member, believe in the district so little that you want to advocate for tax dollars to be directed away from this district to private schools, what are you doing serving on this board? You are not looking out for this. You are not looking out for this district's best interests. This is not what a school board does. If vouchers are your goal, good luck in Illinois. Run for higher office or move to Indiana. Our Millburn District 4 meetings are not an appropriate venue for personal rantings about vouchers, transphobic hate speech, book banning, or political grandstanding. Please clean it up and do better for our kids and community.
Yeah, there's a box to check.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Moore, if you could public comment. Okay. Brendan, Jason? Dean Administration? Clerk? Good evening. As many of you might know, and I know all of you know, I served on this board with every individual in here. I have 2 points that I want to make. One is quick and it's clean. And my experience, having been on a school board, there's very little opportunity where it's appropriate to put a teacher on administrative leave. And if the Round Lake School District, that Peter Federini works for, felt that the criminal investigation conducted by the Round Lake Police Department was enough to warrant his immediate leave of absence, that tells me that the nature of this investigation is serious, and it could be at the detrimental of the safety of our children. So if they did not think that he was fit to teach in a building with students, are we comfortable as a community allowing this man to serve on a board that makes decisions for the well-being of every kid in this district?
No.
No, we are not, sir. And I demand your immediate resignation. I'm asking for it because it's not my decision, but I will ask for it in every meeting until it happens. You did not decide comment when you were reached out to by the media. So you're leaving us in the dark. You'll have an opportunity during board discussion tonight if you'd like to set the record straight of why you think it's appropriate for you to sit in this room and make decisions for the well-being of the kids in this district. And until you do that, sir, I'm not comfortable with you being here, and I'm going to make it uncomfortable for you to be here until your name is clear or until you are not in that chair. And this board would have no problem appointing you right back in. Step aside, you're a distraction for the district. Second of all, where are we? What are we doing? This is not about your individual agendas. I've sat in meetings with each and every one of you, and I know where you come from, and you all have a very, very difficult time separating your own political ideology from what's best for the district, and it shows. And there's people here because it shows. If you were running this board effectively, there would be no one in a goddamn seat here, and you all know that. This is a disgrace. This is a proud district, and you all ought to be ashamed of yourself. And Jim, the way you talk to me and the way you look at me is fine. If you look at her, when she's talking to you like that, that's offensive and that's threatening. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Right.
One more.
I would like to remind everyone that people are innocent until proven guilty in our country.
Not here.
Peter, please. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We appreciate them. We do take them to heart. Moving on to our next agenda item. Do we have any additions for discussion for tonight? Proposed school board meeting dates for 2023-2024.
Okay, you have a draft on your desk of proposing for the next year. We're not deciding on these tonight. You can take them home, look at them, make sure they're okay.
When are we planning on deciding that?
That's a good question. So usually we decide until after the next board is
That's what I-
seated.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't have to do that, but you can do that.
I think it would be fair to the.
Because we will have
Yes.
4 new board members.
That. We'll not decide that. They're seated.
But there they are, they're proposed.
How long until this needs to be approved?
That's what,
Before
what, April
Before July.
before July,
or July?
June.
That's great. That's perfect.
We'll shoot for the regular board meeting.
That is-
Process of identifying sexually related topics in library books related to policy 4:165.
The last board meeting, board member asked to go back and review the procedures for identifying books that may have sexually related topics in them. And so I went back and talked to the librarians and the staff. The book in particular, Fighting Words, I think somebody mentioned it tonight, was the book that was in question. That's on a CAUDL reading list. So a CAUDL reading list is a list that's juried by the Illinois State Library Association schools and groups, and so that's how that list comes about. And then every summer, what our teachers do in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is have a summer reading list for kids. They get to choose any 3 off of that list. And I believe 7th and 8th might choose 6. So this is the letter that goes out to those parents and students each year. So they've selected a list. It's a broad list. On this, we say, we advise parental review and discretion when selecting a book. Some books contain language and subject matter that might be mature for your child. We suggest that parents read the book with their child and discuss it together like a book club. I think it's important that all parents know what their children are reading for a variety of reasons. Some kids might not be ready for some of that content. Some kids need that content. Every child develops and grows at a different rate in our district. So leaving that up to parents to decide is, I think, a wise and good thing, or to be aware of what your kids are reading. That goes in most households. We want to be aware of what our kids are reading. So if we see something that's bothering them, we can have those conversations with them. So that is the process for those particular set of books. What we're going to suggest for next year is we also send out we have a summary of the content of each of them. Just gives a little synopsis of what they're reading, so you can see that and select those books with your children, and so that may or may not help. In talking to our ELA teachers, I said, what's more important is that kids pick the right reading level. So if they're required to do a book report on some of the books, if the reading level is too low, they're not going to get enough information. It's not going to be rich enough for them to provide enough information for a good book report. If they're too high, the kids aren't going to understand it, and it's going to go over their head, which talking to the 6th grade teachers, that happens a lot too with some of the content. They kind of miss the forest for the trees as far as what the book is really about. So that was the discussion, and that's how we currently this is how we currently handle content like that. And then we can add a layer so that everybody has an idea. We're not trying to hide anything. What I want to get out to parents is that we are not trying to hide anything about any content that we teach. These are optional. This is not part of our regular curriculum that we would teach in a classroom. We're not. This is childhood. Yeah.
And as it were, at least in my experience, most books, if there are sensitive topics, at least nowadays, have a trigger warning, which I think is worth noting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if there is sensitive content in there, the author has the gumption to at least forewarn people, so that if there's something that, maybe a triggering, part of prose and whatnot, that parents, children, whoever is reading can be aware of it. I think is important to be aware of, because people don't read as much as they used to, and will not be aware that that is something that happens because it is important.
Are the CAUDL books been used in any part of the curriculum? Because I'm thinking back, and I thought that when I had a student here, that there was a book, at least one book on the list that was used as an English book or something, or is this strictly summer?
These lists are new lists, so they're newer books that are coming out.
Right, yeah.
So they may not have. Yeah. Are we currently using a book? That
No, I
was
guess
a
the
comic
question
book?
was, the question is in the past, where books that are on the CAUDL list,
Yeah.
were they used as part of the curriculum?
They might be, I don't know.
Okay,
I can't answer that question. The CAUDL list, nothing special about that. If a teacher reads a book,
yeah,
and they might read some of the CAUDL books,
Right.
Because they're the award, they've won awards, so that's how they get on the list.
Mhm.
And then our students in Illinois get to vote on which one is their favorite.
Okay, that rings a bell. Okay.
So that's part of that process. And then we do other activities in the library surrounding that,
Okay.
those books. By choice. So if you've read 5 books and you want to participate in that, you.
Okay. I'll have
So
to-
could a coddle book be used? Sure, if the teacher says, reads that book and says, or comes to an understanding, this might be a great book to teach the content that they're trying to teach,
Yeah.
that would fit in with our unit, absolutely, I think that could happen.
Okay.
But that has nothing to do with coddle, it could be any book that's circulating.
Okay. I'm trying to make the connection here. Again, when I had a student in the district. A bottle book, I don't know if it was summer reading, I don't know, it was, part of the class. But, she was even asking me if this was appropriate. And I don't know what the book is, I don't recall, I'll see if I can find out, but.
Yeah.
So, I guess what that would boil down to is you said that there would be a synopsis.
Yeah.
Would we have like a trigger warning, this may contain like, kind of how in the movies it
Yeah,
says
sexual
violence,
situation.
blood,
Yes.
could we include that in the synopsis? Or?
That is included in the synopsis.
Not the one that was in that last year. Yeah. It was just the synopsis last year was just whatever the book wrote, you turn it is on the first page, so it's nothing like, hey, this contains X, Y, Z on it.
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It does have ratings of what it's appropriate for. We use Common Sense Media too.
Okay.
To get this, so we can get reviews on it, and we, for better or worse, rely on Common Sense Media to help us at least rank, is it a 11-year-old, 6th grade on up, or should it be more directed at high school on up, or is it okay for kindergarten at their reading level? So.
I feel like, I mean, I feel like going through, this is just, like, there's a list, and then you guys use Common Sense Media, and from that point forward, I kind of feel like the onus is on the parents to look at what their kids are choosing, as opposed to like, I just feel like it's unduly burdensome to put in the district to like have to go through all of these books and, type up a synopsis for parents when we could and should be doing it with our kids.
Ideally, it would be the parents, but.
I just don't, I just am thinking of like, cause that's time and time is money, and what else could we be using that time for?
Yeah, I'll be honest, again, my recollection is I was caught off guard. And yeah, I can say it would have been my job to have, read the book, but. Didn't hit my radar. Now, that being said, it was, I could understand why, she was bringing questions to me about it, but it was maybe a year or two ahead of maybe where she should have been reading. So it wasn't like it was, totally outrageous. But again, if I can't find any better information, we're going on my memory. So.
Like moving forward, just don't. I wouldn't want like staff and administration to spend unnecessary time looking over something that we as parents should be looking over ourselves, like at least in this regard, there's, I think those resources could be better directed.
Yeah. Maybe try some instructions to say, this is the list of books. And go out to the internet and see what you can find out. And if you don't feel that it's appropriate, then I don't know, don't choose that book or something,
That's what this says.
Right now.
I'm sorry.
We give the list of books, we give a synopsis. You can Google any title
Yeah.
that you want as a parent. But I think,
Oh, then I guess I misunderstood.
oh,
Is it, I'm sorry, is it that we should not be writing the synopsis?
Yeah, like what as Jason was mentioning that, like, we were talking about like in the coming years, like typing out like a synopsis for each.
we
book.
we already have it done. We take it out, common sense.
Okay.
So it's easy then.
Right, I was thinking that it was
I
like.
think it's
a
easy
separate-
because we've done
okay.
it before.
Yeah.
Right. Yes,
Okay.
All right.
that's an easy, thanks, that, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
but that- no,
thought you
that's
were
an
talking
easy
about
one.
like going through them, like specifically, like.
No,
within the
no, we're not,
district,
we're not
putting
writing the
accents.
synopsis, we use common
Okay.
sense media, dump it into a spreadsheet, push it out, pretty. And it gives you the genre, the
Mhm.
topic, author,
Yeah.
everything. Any more questions about that procedure?
So the quote from Rebecca Cotto is on the website, the Cotto web. The first essential in any book is that it has something significant to say, a book that leaves the reader with bigger ideas than when he began reading, that stimulates his thinking, stretching his mind, deepens his feelings. A good book sticks to your ribs. So I think books that meet that criteria, you're gonna find a lot that really are impactful. And so as parents, it's definitely up to us to keep an eye on it and look through the list when it comes out, because you will find books that meet that criteria that are probably going to have your child bring up a lot of questions. And I think that's the whole point. We want our children to have questions and discuss adult and not necessarily adult, but real matters with their parents and their teachers.
Who selects these again?
It's,
Well, the kids vote on the one that
Kids
they
vote on
think
that
is the
list.
best.
The list is selected by the Illinois Library, Elementary
The
School. Library
library group,
Association.
okay.
So the onus ends up on the parents to
Yeah.
figure out what is age appropriate for their particular child.
Right.
That's where it gets tricky.
well, for elementary age, but so there's a lot of difference between them. So stuff that's on the list could be appropriate for fifth grade, but not for.
Right,
second
they,
grade.
they rate it and they'll say,
Sure.
Like
But
six,
is it-
7,
Six
8,
and seven.
right.
But is it appropriate for all fifth graders or all sixth graders? And
You can't
there's varying
standardize
levels of
everything.
maturity inside of that age range.
Any other questions on this one? Student discipline related to policy 7:190.
The Jim had brought up at the last meeting about the, exception to the discipline policy of bathroom dispensers.
Yes. And, in discussions and, figuring out that it would be a hard carve out. And a lot of you, good folks here, you brought that up, that, how could you not discipline one type of behavior, destructive behavior, if you wanted to put it that way. And, with the discussions with some folks, some on the board, it turns out, that would be a very difficult carve out, so I admit that. And looking at some of the machines that are in the buildings anyway, they've already been, pretty much, some of them have been pretty much vandalized, so, that's neither here nor there. So since that is going to be a tough carve out, what is it that, if anything, that can be done in order to, if, let's say, for instance, these are boys and they're getting into, trouble in the boys' restrooms. What's more reasonable? And, that probably lends itself more towards towards school discipline. That's what I'm trying to say here is that without having a carve out, how can we not punish the kids if they are, curious, just having fun, or I hate to say it because I was called out on it, but boys being boys. So as an example, what if these machines just keep getting empty? I don't know. To be honest with you, I've barely ever seen them. So that means that there's probably boys, more than likely, boys that are in the boys' restroom emptying these things for whatever reason. Don't know what that could possibly be. So, how does that get handled? Is this a major discipline issue? Or is this something that is where there has to be some kind of a middle ground? Where there's an indication that they've done wrong, but not to the point where it's a severe punishment, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I don't know what that middle ground is, but
Why would you create a middle ground for, I'm sorry for interrupting you, why
no,
would,
go ahead.
why would you create a middle ground for destruction of public property?
Oh, no, I'm saying that. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're
I'm-
not saying to
Yeah,
create,
I am a little under the weather. No, I'm saying that the destruction of the devices, there's no way to say that that's a separate discipline issue. So that falls under any other disruption. I don't know.
Yeah, any other vandalism.
Pulling a fire alarm. I don't.
So you don't think it's possible to create a policy that would.
And like I said, this isn't just because of the good folks here tonight. This is something that I had been thinking about. I had gotten some opinions and I was asked to think, well, how's that gonna work? And I tried to think how it was gonna work and it wouldn't work out well.
Okay.
So, that's,
So we'll just drop it from the.
only from the standpoint of, what happens if you get a group of boys and they're just in there and they're emptying the machines just for giggles? And I don't know how that gets handled.
Hmm.
But what I'm thinking is that, on the scale of things that can happen, it's much lower than pulling a fire alarm. It's even lower than fighting. It's something that needs to be attended to, but, I guess let the punishment fit the crime. And my concern is that, there may be a tendency to go overboard. I don't know that, this is up to the principals and assistant principals, et cetera. But, from the standpoint of, what am I trying to say?
How about, if we ask, Mr. Jorgensen, and Mr. Walshire to make sure to let us know if they're having any troubles with it, but if they don't see anything come up in the next couple of months, we'll not worry about it.
Okay, that's good, and if stuff is coming up or it's coming up on a regular basis, then maybe it's something to be addressed. But I'm pulling if I can, I'm pulling the text regarding that. Destruction of the machines or scratching them or what have you. It's not workable.
Sounds good. Thank you. Moving on, we have a couple of FOIAs. Interesting ones today. They're on the agenda if you want to know more about them. Future agenda items will be more board policy updates, of course. Fees for after school and other enrichment, hearing to waive the state holidays that we would like to pass. Investment opportunities, MTSS presentation and rep.
What is the schedule for the hearing for the investment activities?
So Dr. Johns and I met with an investment company last week. We have to do projections into the 2024 fiscal year, so we're working on that now. I don't have a specific date. Pulling in that data, meeting with other people. Dr. Johns is also meeting with other banks to compare rates.
They're definitely gonna be conservative.
They have to be. According to board policy, all investments have to be extremely liquid and very conservative in nature so that we don't run into any trouble. But the fact that we're talking about that possibility is pretty positive. So, yeah, that's a good question, John, because it's on future agenda items.
Yeah,
We've been
well,
working
it's
on-
been there.
We're working on it. Like,
We're working.
on
It's not as easy as one would think.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, one other question. What about Raptor? That's been on there for a little bit. What's the status of that? And I thought that there was some, did we receive,
There's a,
email?
yep. It was some questions and I don't know that I responded to her, so I want to make sure that I'll go back and check.
Okay, because this Raptor is not a deep dive into someone's background.
No.
Okay, all right.
Nope.
Just another security measure, keep us safe.
Exactly, and no more, no less.
No more, no less. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Okay. We went to a recruiting fair on Saturday at Lakes High School for all Lake County school districts. It was more fun for me to hang out with some of my colleagues that I haven't seen for a while, but Jake manned the table and we manned the table and tried to bring in some more people to work here. So we are recruiting bus drivers, parapros, and teachers right now. So if you know anybody that's available and willing, that's a great opportunity.
And substitutes.
And substitutes. And our booth was the envy of everyone in the place. We had a good attraction set up for bringing people in, so that was good to see. Open forum Wednesday night, so we will have in this space, we would like to have a conversation about some of the topics we've been talking about, because some of the frustration that I've been hearing from the community is there's no dialogue with anybody about some of these issues and what is the law and how does Millburn handle this? How do we administratively handle bathroom issues or gender support plans or things like that? So we are not getting into the sex ed standards after I've had the opportunity to chat with people and bounce ideas off on what this should look like. The scope of an hour and a half is going to be very high level. It's going to be a conversation more about our processes and then any questions that people have. And I trust that our community will be able to have that conversation. Some people don't think this is going to go well, and I understand that. It might not. I certainly don't have all the answers. I also don't want to shy away from tough conversations that are perhaps long overdue, or maybe not long overdue, but at least the last couple of years. And it's really hard to get ahead of these conversations. And I feel like we're being reactionary constantly now, and I would like to get ahead of them. Have some real conversations where people can ask questions, meet some other people, meet other parents in the school district who have kids here, who may have questions about, hey, what happens if my child is telling me that they are transgender, or how do we support them? What does that process look like? What happens if my child is in a bathroom with someone who they're surprised by? It's okay. We deal with this on a regular basis. We have advertised and have been working on how do we support kids, period, the end. How do we love kids that come into their building? Everybody is welcome here. This is public school, everyone's welcome here. We're going to have parents in the room, I'm assuming, on Wednesday night that have all kinds of different ideas about how we should do this. we have to figure out as a community how we're gonna live together. I had lived in the community. You all live in the community, you have to live in the community. We have to figure out, okay, so these are some tough issues and it feels to me like things are happening really fast. And we need to take a step back and just have some conversations and start with, what is the law? What do we have to do? And what should we do in regard to that? So I'm looking forward to the conversation, believe it or not. Whether I can handle that conversation or not to manage that will be yet to be seen, but I trust our community, I really do. And I do have a certificate in health education. It was a long time ago, and what I taught in health actually matches up with the summary of the national sex ed standards, but when you go deeper into the standards, there's additional information there that was not taught when I started. So, but at first glance, so I can handle tough conversations. Maybe, we'll see. See if I show up Thursday, or we show up Thursday, or if it just tears our community apart, but we have to do something in it. And we can't shy away from tough conversations and figure out how to do that respectfully. So that's the goal for Wednesday night, is to start that, and maybe it'll lead into some focus groups and who knows?
What time?
That's
What time? This Wednesday, what time?
this Wednesday, it starts at 6:30 day. That's it.
Thank you. Business office report.
All right, so, over the last couple of weeks, back on February 23rd, I met with Cooperative 90s, which is our health and dental and vision cooperative. They're in tentative discussions with or beginning discussions of renewal rates. So the tentative renewal information is, in my business office report. The big one, is right now, we're looking at a possible 15% increase for the PPO health plan. And there will be, an increase to the HMO as well, 9.5, and a 3.2 increase for dental. So these are tentative numbers. We saw something like this last year, and the amounts actually were lower than what the tentative amounts were. But if we were to take these numbers right now and what we're paying this year for health, PPO, health, HMO, and dental insurance, that would equate to just under $500,000 in insurance costs. So next steps, a couple of things. Last year, there were some plan changes that were made to the PPO and HMO health plans. However, the bulk of those changes did not go into effect until 1/1/23. So any cost savings would not be realized while we're going through the renewal for this year. So next up is on March 23rd, there is a Cooperative 90s board meeting where we'll review proposals and finalize the rates. So at the first board meeting in April, I'll be able to provide the final increases. But as we have, if you scroll up just a bit, there will be no increase to the dental HMO plan, dental vision, life insurance, and disability insurance. So more to come on that. Next up with just investing status, that we're continuing to work on it on a weekly basis. And then under HR, there is a law that goes into effect. Part of it is already in effect, but starting July 1, 2023, public and non-public elementary, middle, and secondary high schools basically have to start, conducting employment history reviews related to sexual misconduct for any, permanent or temporary employees. So ISB has stepped in because what this law is asking school districts to do is if a district is hiring, a new employee, the hiring district has to reach out to their current employer, any school that they worked at in the past, and any job that they've worked at in the past where they worked with children, and have those employers complete this form that is created. And the person that we're onboarding will have to complete the form as well. So what that means is basically, there could be, when we're doing the onboarding process, we're going to have to reach out to a number of employers, which is just going to make the onboarding process a little bit longer than it currently is. Just add some additional, time and workload to the onboarding process. IASPA, which is the Illinois Association of School Personnel Administrators, they are trying to work with a vendor, a technology vendor, to automate the process. So if that does come to fruition, that's something that we would definitely try to purchase, because I think this will add, a good chunk of time onto the HR side of things. So more to come on that as well. That's all I had.
Okay. All right, do we have any board reports?
I went to, was it Millburn Showcase, right? I was there, so it was insane. It was really packed. Kids were out there. I talked with Carl, and Carl said, this is more people than what we thought. It was very well received.
Thanks to our staff. who did that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's it.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.